Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, November 2nd, 2018. Hope everybody had a great week. It is now the weekend for some. Still work for most of us, I'm sure. Let's get right into the space weather of things. Today our solar wind speeds right now is sitting at 351.1 kilometers per second with a density of 9.2. Now this is going to change probably likely tomorrow as we are looking at the chance of a G1 geomagnetic storm on November 3rd when a stream of solar wind is expected to hit the Earth's magnetic field. During this class storm, they're saying we could see auroras descend as far south as Maine to Washington in the United States. So all of you in the Northwest and the Northeast, get ready. Taking a look at our sun, we are looking at 0 spots. Once again, this is now day 15 without sunspots in a row. Totaling 181 for 2018. And we're just getting started with November. Pardon me. Take a look at our TCI index. Reading is at 40 billion watts. Our record again is 20 billion watts back in February of 2009. Take a look at our KP indices. Right now we're sitting at a 0 with a 24-hour max of 24. Looking at our SDO picture here of our sun. And we have a pretty good size coronal hole starting up. If we look at the live, though, we're talking about the Earth-facing coronal hole right now. And on the motion SDO, we get a little. It's not quite as weak looking as the still picture of the SDO, but we are looking at some development here. You can see that weakness beginning on this coronal hole well, so that should expand. And also we have something over here that is also starting to develop as well. So the next couple of days are going to be interesting as far as geomagnetic activity with the increased solar wind speeds that we will experience. We've been pretty quiet here lately as far as the solar wind speeds go. So it'll be interesting. But we'll keep our eyes on this as well with the KP being at 0. We have one earthquake to speak of. There was another 5.5 Mari. Where was that 5.5 at again? Did you say Romania?
That was actually in Romania.
So Romania. So we're going to keep our eyes on the seismic activity and the volcanic activity as well. Hope everybody caught Mari's volcano update today. If not, check it out after the show. Take a look at the TSI, and that's starting to drop as well. Not a whole lot, but still, we're looking at values at 1360.6635, and that was for October 25th of 2018. So we've seen it fluctuate in the values of the 0.7 area. Now here lately, it's starting to settle a little bit back into the mid 0.6s. And the number one topic today is, of course, the new numbers are in. Dr. Roy Spencer, every month we get updates around the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of the month. October came in at 0.22 degrees Celsius above baseline. That was up 0.08 degrees Celsius. Everybody puts their best effort forward on the guesses, and I'm not sure if Starman guessed because he got it right. I remember him telling us that he thought that this would rise to 0.22 degrees Celsius above baseline. So now what drove things to go up a little bit? And this is not really that big of a deal. Last October, we were sitting at a 0.63 above baseline Celsius. So from last year to this year, we're starting to see the decline. We are cooler for sure at this point now than we were last year. And we got a little cooler as the fall progressed into the winter. But so let's take a look at what caused this temperature anomaly for the month of October. As we see in the northern hemisphere, was at a 0.31. Southern hemisphere, we were looking at a 0.12. The tropics were at a 0.34. And then the U.S. lower 48 was at a plus 2.5. So these values here, especially here in the U.S., that's down almost a full, almost 0.7 degrees Celsius, as well as other areas that have went up just a little bit. But the one that went up the most was the Arctic. And we were looking at values anomaly for October that was up 1.11 degrees Celsius in the Arctic. So that's a pretty good sized jump for that part of the world. Also considering last month we were at 0.21. So it's curious for me, like, how much lower we would have been had the North Arctic had not warmed up. Again, other areas of the world, values are coming in much lower. And that's why we're staying kind of cool. But for the most part, it's pretty even. Some of the temperatures went up, some went down. I know the Northern Hemisphere temperatures rose just a little bit than it was last month. But the Southern Hemisphere cooled off just slightly. And then, of course, we had the tropics where they warmed up just a little bit here. But also the lower 48 here in the United States, we saw a pretty decent drop in temperatures. About 0.67 degrees Celsius is what we saw in a drop. But the Arctic by far was the biggest increase, and something to keep an eye on. But like I said, if this would have been just a normal increase or even a decrease, it's interesting to know that the temperatures are flirting with that zero baseline status here, on the edge, in my opinion. So for the most part, we now know what kept temperatures from dropping probably at near baseline, if not below, had the Arctic not warmed as much as it has. But fear not, anomalies happen. This is nothing unusual. Although you'll hear the mainstream media will try to spin this as the ice caps are melting and, we're all going to die in the next 10 years because, the ice caps are melting and man-made global warming has gotten out of control and blah, blah, blah. You guys know the narrative. So many things, too, that we've watched over the week about when it comes to the mainstream media covering up why we're cooling. I was speaking with a friend of mine during the week about these this video I saw on the Weather Channel. And we're talking about taking CO2 out of the atmosphere with machines that suck it out of the atmosphere. And I told Rob, I said, well, here you go. Here's their out. When it does start cooling off here in the next several years, and it continues to trend downward in temperatures, the mainstream media, the global warming folks, have got a legitimate, in their minds, a legitimate out, and that is, hey, we built these machines that sucked all the CO2 and we weren't so warm anymore. And it's frustrating because, and here's the thing that I hate the most. I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen, but a lot of the folks over there at NOAA that follow NOAA on Facebook, the biggest criticism I get is when I present information from Dr. Roy Spencer's website here. And I always get, well, this is just a blog. Blog or not, these readings here are the raw data. The UAH Global Temperature Update for October 2018. UAH is University, Alabama. This is not just some, crackpot in his backyard making up numbers here. So, blog or not, the data is correct. And I think it's kind of funny how some of these people like to spin this stuff here. But like I said, we are looking at the Weather Channel, and they're posting this video about how they've started to put these machines in action, sucking out CO2. And yeah, it's just desperation now. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're looking at this all wrong. You're comparing February to September. That's just ridiculous." No, I'm notating the temperature drop since February and continuing forward how it's trending down. And I guess this is where the mainstream is going to try to tell us next that we have arrived at the bottom of this particular graph's peak right here. I guess they're going to tell us that we're going to start seeing things going back up because they're saying this line is trending this way. And I'm saying that we might have seen a long-term trend this way, but I also believe that we are about to witness the shift in this right now. We're going through it. You can see it. Peak, peak, another peak. That peak's going to be even lower. It's going to continue. So I'm tired of the excuse that I'm using a blog. I'm using a very reputable person, a person who has testified in front of Congress, who's explained to lawmakers, and it continues to explain to lawmakers, that CO2 is not causing warming. I'll leave the link in the description. You guys can check it out for yourself and read over the numbers. But I thought it was interesting to mention that, you know, for the most part, we had a normal reading for October. The Arctic obviously has warmed the most in this instance, but we also see a drastic cooling earlier back in March of this year, where it was in February an unusual 1.19 degrees above baseline, and then dropped almost a full degree within a month, and then rose almost another full degree in another month, and by May falling 3/4 of a degree. I mean, it's been up and down in the Arctic the entire year 2018, except for, now here's where this cooler, the slightly below average temperatures might have played in here, the atmosphere. It looks like July and August and also September were below average temperatures, which we talked about that through July into August. There was a 50-day stretch of temperatures below average in the summer. Cooler summers, warmer falls and winters means more snow. This number right here is confirming the setup that we have coming our way for this winter. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. Taking a look at watchers. Deadly storms moved through the southeastern United States. Intense and damaging thunderstorms moved over the southern plains into the southeast over the past couple of days, dumping heavy rain and producing strong winds. 17 reported tornadoes. At least 2 people have lost their lives, one in Texas and one in Mississippi. The first storms and tornadoes near Dallas and Houston, Texas before noon local time, Wednesday, October 31st. By the end of the day, the storms extended all the way to extreme southeastern Oklahoma and northern Arkansas. And you guys can check out a lot of this video footage here on the watchers from Twitter. Massive tornado here. I watched a little piece the other day how it talks about October is kind of like peak part 2 for severe weather and tornadoes. And boy, we have seen quite a bit here in the last couple of days. Large hail was reported in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and far southeastern Oklahoma Wednesday evening, according to AccuWeather. Parts of Houston experienced heavy flooding. They also had tornado warnings as well that were storms just west of them just the other day. As of early November 1st, 50,000 customers were without power across Louisiana and more than 10,000 in Mississippi. At the height of the storm, nearly 100,000 homes and businesses were without power. A small dam at a private lake in Arlington, Texas appears close to failing, city officials said on October 31st. It says appears the failure of the spillway may be imminent, while no flooding of residential structures are anticipated. According to Arlington Mayor Jeff Williams, has declared an emergency and issued a proclamation Wednesday so that the city staff may act to protect safety of citizens. And more pictures and video of the damage that has been wreaked upon here in the south. Again, this is Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. and Mississippi. Mississippi and Texas, unfortunately, one person in each state has lost a life. We'll leave the link in the description, guys. Also, not just down southwest, but today we were looking at severe thunderstorms, and we also had a couple of tornado warnings, actually several tornado warnings today. There was over, it says here, 6 tornado warnings in the area today, including Tampa, Florida. National Weather Service confirmed at least one tornado near Port Richey, Florida, that caused an EF1 damage. A couple out in the southwest were also EF2, so nothing too serious, but compared to the last couple tornadoes we reported on, which were only they were only EF0s, and that was in the northwest and the northeast. So we had northwest and northeast a couple days ago. Now today we have southeast and the southwest with tornadic activity. It says here no serious injuries or fatalities have been reported due to the severe weather. Again, take a look at the damage that we're seeing from this particular storms. I saw a couple of videos on social media today with tornadoes just zooming by. One guy was sitting in his truck or car, and I mean, this thing's coming at you pretty fast. Yeah, definitely have to go in. That tornado's coming right at you. Goodness. I'll leave the link in the description. And here is one of the earthquakes that I was talking about earlier. 6.2 hits Tarapacá, Chile. This happened today, 22:19 UTC, November 1st, 2018. Reporting a depth of around 59 miles, a 6.2. We have the area that it's located was near Chile, right there on land. It does not appear right now. This says there's about 300,000 people living within 62 miles of this radius. It does not appear to be any kind of structural damage or any kind of injury or death has been reporting at this point. But we will keep our eye on this. And this kind of goes with what I was talking about. The next couple of days may be a little bumpy. I've heard a rumor. There's a couple channels that are speaking about a possibility of a couple of big earthquakes in our near future, and it has to make you wonder a little bit with the KP indices being really stuck at 0 for the majority of the time. We've been in the low 1 reading, 2 here and there, but for the most part we've seen a lot of low KP indices. Coronal holes, solar wind is about to increase here for us here soon. We know what that does to the jet stream, and it's going to reflect that too as well. We're going to show you that here just a little bit with this forecast we got coming up. And I got to say that there's some intense storms that are showing up on GFS right now. And with what we are looking at right now with space weather, solar wind stream, possibility of a G1, maybe a G2. It just depends on how much more this coronal hole decides to grow. But right now the region that's already went past Earth facing will be felt tomorrow, and possibly the next couple of days to come we might get a little bit more of effect from that coronal hole just southwest of the one that we're looking at right now. So just interesting. The 5.5 today in Romania, that was also on land, not in water. Chile, again, we have spoke about this probably the last 10 to 15 days. We can tell you about at least 2 or 3 6.1 or higher earthquakes that are happening on a consistent basis right now. And like I said, there's talk that there's a big one that could be coming in the near future, and it's going to be somewhere populated. I can't really speak because I haven't heard the claims, but I know the people that are telling me this are accurate and pretty reliable sources. So be interesting here in the next couple of weeks to keep an eye on the solar weather and just the weather itself as we continue to decline into this minimum. Hundreds of millions of people will die, claim the Australian Conservation Foundation. Say that 5 times drunk, really fast. Bob in Castlemaine, the head of the Australian Conservation Foundation, Kelly O'Shaughnessy, delivered a solemn warning last Tuesday to a packed audience of journalists, claiming that if we continue to burn coal and breach the 1.5 degrees Celsius IPCC climate limit, hundreds of millions will die. Says Kelly O'Shaughnessy has run out of time of being polite over climate policy. And it shows her fear porn. When people are defending burning coal and gas, then that's what they're really talking about. Those hundreds of millions of people whose lives will be at risk. So in other words, for those of us who don't believe in halting the burning of fossil fuels, we are now thrown into that pile of we're killing hundreds of millions of people. So, there's more. This person here writes, pardon, hundreds of millions of people will die. We will not have a habitable planet. But get this, not a single journalist in the room said, are you nuts? Not one asked, what's your evidence? To me, it's mad, bad, and dangerous that a room of journalists can hear a shiny-eyed speaker proclaim the end of the world, at least for humans, yet react without the slightest skepticism. Have the eyes to see or brains to think? Just look outside. Have they no eyes to see or brains to think? Listen, it kind of reminds me of a story that I covered months ago about an individual who went into this meteorological convention, and he was grabbed by the shirt and slammed up against the wall by a man who had been doing this for 40 years, very heavily involved with the man-made global warming push. And the reason why this individual meteorologist was slammed into the wall was because he mentioned the word cooling. And not once, but a couple of times. And the gentleman was just speaking the truth about ocean temps and whatnots, and he was threatened by a 40-year veteran. You don't ever mention the word cooling at these kinds of events. As if to say, this is where we get our bread. This is where we get our, this is how we convince people out there and policymakers around the country why we need the money to do what we're doing. And I really think that here is a situation where the media, mainstream media, happens here as well. Can't prove it. I have to speculate that they run under the same kind of mindset. Don't you dare mention cooling. They don't want any skeptics. Look, Noah told me this week that there is no skepticism about man-made global warming. That's what Noah told me. Noah's also threatened to ban me on Facebook. Now, guys, I'm not trolling them. I'm actually speaking back and forth with other people in the thread. Noah is constantly mentioning me in their replies and telling me that I'm spreading misinformation. And guys, all I'm mentioning are things like about Dr. Roy Spencer, solar cycles, minimums. I've spoke of Zarkova. And one person, actually, we were talking back and forth, and he wasn't that bad. He was actually trying to be civil about it. And I made the comment about how Zarkova even admits that we're in a grand solar minimum, that we're looking at a multi-decade of cooling temperatures. We're in a multi-decadal cooling cycle, I guess I should say. And his reply was, well, I've never heard Valentina Zarkeva make that claim about the minimum. And I left them the link, and I don't do that. I don't really drop my links to videos and stuff like that. But we did interview Valentina Zarkova, and she did say that we are in a grand solar minimum. This is the one upcoming is the grand solar minimum. So with that said, and she's just going off of her research of magnetic field and the magnetic connection of the sun. So once I dropped that link in the thread, that's when Noah jumped back in and said, Jake Riley, you are continuing to spread misinformation. You're being misleading. You're challenging man-made global warming. And they keep reminding me that this Facebook page is not for that. And they are not going to continue to allow me to spew disinformation. And it's like they've warned me 3 or 4 times. guys, and I'm not being, I'm not being rude. I'm being polite. Now, when they threatened me again after I left the Zarkova link, I knew it was because, indeed, fact, I had Zarkova telling us about how we're cooling, how we are going to see some really cold winters and shorter summers, which is the truth. And then also she states that we are in a grand solar minimum. And like I said, once that link was out, Noah came at me and threatened to ban me from the page. Another thing that I want to mention as well, Mari and I have learned about the channel BP Earthwatch has been shut down by YouTube. There was some conservative people on Facebook that have also been shut down. And then I had an article that I'd shared on my personal Facebook page that was talking about Hillary and her email crimes and what Mr. Gowdy is wanting to do about it. And Facebook actually messaged me and told me that my post of this story was not accepted by Facebook community standards. So they removed the article, the true article. It wasn't a lie. There was nothing exaggerated about this. They took the truth and told me that this was unacceptable, that this is against our policy. So I guess where I'm going with this is that there's a lot of channels that are losing their channels right now over the truth and their affiliate with what political party. And this is a part where I have to ask people to start checking out our Patreon channel. It's not very active right now. Mari and I are about to make some big changes with that channel, though, that will make it a little bit more accessible for everyone. Because I feel like that there's some things that could be on the horizon. There's some free speech that's being taken away from us. And when you read an article like this, and, this guy is like, it's insane that a room full of journalists did not challenge this claim. That they're writing it down and this is what they're going to put in the papers. No, and this is, like I said, I feel like this has something to do with the same thing when the meteorologist slammed the other guy up against the wall. You don't mention cooling. Same thing with the media here. You don't go against. There's nothing skeptical about what the government says here. Scary times we live in. And when I mention anything about cooling or warming, I always get a Wikipedia global warming card right below my video. I'm okay with that. I realize that right now that channels like us are going to continue to push on for as long as we can to get the truth out, to show you what's really happening to our climate and not just a bunch of hubbub. But I feel like that we're getting, I hope not, I hope I'm wrong, but if that does happen, we do have a Patreon channel. Some big things are getting ready to happen for that channel as well, so we can make it easier for everybody else. We have our website, the Grand Solar Minimum. That's about to get going again. Thankfully, I think Mari now is in a position where we will start seeing things like the update that we had today on our volcanoes. We will start to see a little bit more smaller videos, updates on what's going on, but still doing the live shows like we have here the past few weeks. But just a little added bonus to have Mari kind of help fill the gaps when there's something going on and we're not doing anything live about it. At least Mari will be there for us right now to kind of fill in the blanks for us in between shows. So that's good news, that she's going to be in a position now to do more of what she loves to do, which is making videos, editing, and just getting the truth out there and getting the real information to everybody. I feel like that it's so watered down half the time, and and she puts a lot of work into it. She has a lot of sources that go into each of her videos. It's not just a couple of articles. She vets things out 100%. So I'm excited. I'm glad we got her back doing that again. But at the same time, like I said, big things coming to the Patreon channel here soon, as we feel like we need to be on as many platforms as possible, because it's not for sure what we have here. YouTube has been pretty good to us for the most part since we've been here, but again, it makes you wonder. Some big channels have been shut down, and I have no idea A lot of them are being very vague. They're just saying YouTube shut them down. So all we can do is hope and pray for the best, continue to push our message of the truth, and try to educate people and point people in the right direction. And I think we have a brilliant group of people that follow this channel on a regular basis. Our subs, they continue to grow. The chats that we see, people are asking more questions. People are following us more on Twitter and Facebook. And a lot of people are becoming skeptics now of this. A lot of people that I see and meet on social media, they're telling me they used to believe in the whole global warming thing. And that there was channels like myself and Suspicious Observers and, Ice Age Farmer, channels like that where they've, Adapt 2030, where they've seen stories and headlines about grand solar minimum and crop loss. And this makes more sense to them. This clicked. They knew something was off about the theory of man-made global warming. And that's our hope, is that we get that message out there, that there's new research coming out, there's new studies out. We're seeing the opposite. It's right here. The proof is in the pudding. Like I've said before, the truth is in the pudding, I should say. And I know it's politics, but I gotta mention it, folks, because we have a very, very, very important midterm election coming up. And this article here on What's Up With That wants to remind us of that, because it is important. If the Democrats do take over the House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi will ask her caucus to create a select committee on climate change, similar to the now defunct panel behind the failed effort to pass cap-and-trade legislation. Pelosi said it was clearly still needed to educate the public about the impact of more frequent extreme weather events. Right. So basically they're telling us, and here's something interesting, Republicans disbanded this committee shortly after winning the 2010 election. Now, 2010 was a very cold weather event for a lot of us in the winter. Just like a lot like this year. Conditions, minimum, El Nino, everything. A lot of people are going to compare this winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, especially in the United States, the Northeast and the Northwest, and they're comparing it to this 2009-2010 winter. But the Republicans disbanded this committee once, and you better believe that they will put it back together if they are back in control of the House. President Trump was pulled out of the Paris climate. Right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's the only one. And it's like people are like, wow, you guys are nuts. But yet, we hit our targets. We decreased our numbers without using this foreign policy that looked like it was just a money grab. It was reported earlier this year that Iran is threatening to pull out because they haven't received their money yet from the climate treaty. And to me, that was just, and that story was featured here on What's Up With That as well. That just shows you the true intentions of these countries when they sign into this agreement. They're in this for that money. Even if they don't hit their targets. It's almost like a participation fee. It's crazy. All right, so that was pretty much the article section of tonight's show. But it's very important, folks. If you want to continue to see EPA regulations where they are and even roll back even more into the future, I hate to make this political, but it's the truth. We have to vote Republican to keep the House and keep these regulations falling back. And you know what? I bet you, it's crazy. I know it's crazy, but I bet you still see CO2 emissions by man dropping. And yet we don't even have to be in this treaty. It's going to continue. It's obvious they're finding new ways to convert other energy to be less harmful to the environment. As I've always said before, I am totally for clean air. There is nothing wrong with man coming up with carbon catching filters to help keep the emissions from man even lower. Again, man's impact is very small in the first place. And to keep more man-made pollutants out of the atmosphere is a good thing. I agree. I just don't agree with the part where people say that we're making it warm when we're not. And the data's showing that. And again, this is something that's going to have to take some time, but talk to me 6 years from now. Those graphs are going to look a lot different. Big time. I want to take a look at El Nino. First of all, I want to thank Starman for allowing me to share this with you guys. And for those of you, I always show the temperatures, El Nino 3-4. By the way, this index, as shocking as it is accurate at 1.234 above baseline. I know a lot of these anomaly maps don't look like they match it, but I guess what we need to really watch for is if it stays continuous at this point, then that's when we're looking at more serious effects. But right now, not consistent enough to be a real issue. And according to looking at some of these maps, the 3-4 area right in here, from here to right around here. But as I was getting ready to show you, Starman has put together these charts, these maps, and the overlays is his work. And it shows you right here, region 3-4 shows temperatures of 28 Celsius in both 5 degrees north plus 5 degrees south in the western sector. However, in the eastern sector, the anomaly remains only in the 5 degrees north. Region 3 shows temperatures of 28 degrees Celsius in the western sector only in 5 degree north, with, it says here, 26 degrees Celsius in the remainder. Areas 1 and 2 remains well below Nino threshold of 0.5 degrees Celsius, A and B. Excellent work. He does these updates often, so as much as he does them, I'm going to start showing you guys these charts. But great work by the Starman once again. And, for those of you who always see me talk about this graph, well, where is that? Where is that? And then I show you this. Well, that still doesn't really break it down. So this is really helpful for a lot of folks out there who are wondering, what are we looking at? El Nino 3-4. Where's the 1-2 at? Okay, we see that. Now we start to get a better picture of where these waters at. So if we ever look at these maps like this, or even this one, we know exactly where to look for the region that we need to watch for the temperature rise. So really appreciate the help from Starman. I have a collective source of people that help out with this channel on a daily basis. Rob, I can't thank you enough. Starman as well, he's in the shadows. He does a lot of good work on Twitter, talking about a lot of different things on the weather on Twitter. He also introduced me to someone here recently who is also very, very, a wealth of knowledge when it comes to lunar cycles and solar cycles. We have our continued supporters of Miss C Gypsy, who is a normal mod for us. Thank you for being here every night, it appears. Radical Gardener, Pete, one of our subs, we see him around a lot. Justin, Jeff from Manchester, Tennessee, all you guys. And if I forgot you, I apologize. I worked 10 hours today, so I apologize if I didn't remember everyone. But you get the picture. A lot of you folks help make this channel happen. But this is a really good example of the kind of work that the Starman does. And I got to hand it to him. He's doing a great job. And I'm glad to see him productive like he is on Twitter. Hopefully in the future we can get him on sometime soon. But this guy's very busy. And as you can see, is very involved with his work. And this means a lot to him. So I just want to thank you for sharing this with me and taking the time also to help me understand this information as well. Taking a look at our national radar, and it is about to get soaked here in the, well, actually, this probably needs to be updated because I know it's raining. Yeah, here we go. Much better. So we are experiencing heavy rain here in the Northeast. We have off and on all day today. More storms moving in or out of the Southwest Ohio region, and my old hometown of Dayton, State Route 725 has been closed due to flooding out there. So that's that area does flood from time to time, but Still, this late in the year, that's not normal for them as well. Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania is getting clobbered. New Jersey, New York City, parts of Vermont, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and watch out later in the northeast part of Maine. You guys up there will get your share of this moisture as the night progresses. Also, these storms will drag into the northeast. Tomorrow, we are under a high wind advisory here in eastern New York all the way through New England. Meanwhile, we've got a little storm system moving across the northern plains into the mid part of the country. While the south is starting to die down a little bit from thunderstorms, Miami, you're still seeing some action right now, but that hopefully soon will also pass through. I don't need to show another current radar or the same thing. All right, so we've got an interesting setup coming in over the next several days, and we'll start on Saturday, tomorrow. The GFS is indicating that snow in the northern plains, the far northern plains, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, as this big system here in the northeast is still churning through Saturday. And look, you see a little bit of blue here in the upstate New York region, which could indicate, as well as us here in the Adirondacks, we could see some late night snow on Saturday night. As this storm moves out, man, does it really pick up on the Canadian side. Heavy snow is going to be battering that area. And possible, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some thunder snow, especially in the area where you see the yellow near the blue. But as we move out of this system on Sunday, another low pressure system develops over the central part of the country. Meanwhile, the northwest is starting to spit out some nasty weather as well. Oregon and Washington into Idaho and Montana into the Rockies, you'll see some snow as this system here in the middle of the country by November 5th has kind of fizzled out. But right as that one leaves the United States border, here is another low pressure system. Snow on the backside of this in the Dakotas of Montana and also Wyoming. But look at how massive the precipitation becomes here from this low pressure system as it edges towards the Ohio Valley. Once again, the Ohio Valley on November 6th. Now, you guys just had a bunch of rain here the last couple days. We're looking at some more significant rainfalls. This low pressure system really intensifies. Also, wondering about cosmic ray increasement, solar wind speeds, also helping making this jet stream just wander anywhere it wants to. As you see, this storm system on the 6th, we're going to have warmer air in the northeast, colder air behind it. Alberta, BC, you're going to be pouring snow into the northwest United States, and this storm really gets its act together in Canada. Wisconsin and Minnesota, you're going to get the snow into this. But look how tight these bars are, guys. It's going to be a very windy situation, so blowing snow, I'm not going to go out and say blizzard-like conditions, but the size of this storm by the 7th, I mean, thank God this is just a rain event and not a snow event. But nonetheless, we're going to be expecting heavy flooding in Pennsylvania into the northeast by the 7th. That's next Wednesday. That's after the election. Snow on the backside of this as we move into the later part of the week. On Thursday, snow consistent in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and then in Canada, the areas that we were just showing you. And then this is where I think our first real somewhat of a weather storm is going to start here on the 8th of November. GFS has cold air in place through much of the United States. In fact, over half the country has cold air in place. And this storm starts to churn towards the northeast, rain on the south side, snow on the backside of this, and that's where we're also going to see this dip in the jet stream. This is November 9th. All right? So as this warmer air moves off the east coast, here we have all this moisture in this big low pressure system bringing snow through the 10th into the northeast. And then we get a little bit of a break and we start to see more snow develop by the 11th into the 12th. Once again, the same spot, Kansas and Oklahoma, once again will start another storm system, another low pressure. But this one's going to be a little bit heavier on the snow side. And by the 12th, we're going to see a lot more widespread snow at this point. Look at this system. And the way this jet stream is predicted to drop. It goes pretty far south. Northern parts of Mississippi are going to see some colder temperatures. Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, parts of eastern Texas, northeastern Texas. But this low pressure system is starting to cause trouble in the Ohio Valley Tennessee and Kentucky, even. Snow showers possible. And as this moves on through, now the 13th on Tuesday, this system's pretty fast. You see the ISO bars once again, very fast, very close. So we're going to have some high winds with this as well. And it looks like we're going to get some heavier snowfall in the Northeast by Tuesday from the election. We go into Wednesday, still snow in upstate New York. Snow in New England lingers through the 15th, and then another system coming across the northern part of the plains, bringing more precipitation rain on the south side, and again, a solid shot of some winter precipitation by the 17th of November, and it kind of hangs around here in New York and northeastern part of the United States. So New England and New York, look out. We have some cold and snowy temperatures on the way, but if you notice here, we see the ridge going up all the way into southern Canada. But this is the typical El Nino pattern, where this region stays cold. And there's been a lot of talk. Starman has also told me as well. He has conversations with Judah Cohen. I also recommend him as well. He does great work with the polar vortexes. He is also calling for a lot colder weather here on the East Coast and the Northeast, especially in the Northeast. But we already see hints of some pretty decent cold weather coming across most of the South, 2 different parts of this month. So interesting times indeed. We've got wild space weather getting ready to happen. We've got some more winter precipitation as we only get close to the middle of November. And still we're starting to see the increase of snowfall. Now let's take a look at this here. Let's see how much snowfall. Look at that. So that's quite a bit of snowfall. Beginning of the month, not so much. But as we get into the 5th, the 6th, we start seeing more of the northern part of the United States covered. A lot more snowfall potential in the upper part of the elevations in upstate New York. Some spots here in the Midwest might see 5-7 inches of snow. But still, that snow line is slowly but surely starting to dip down further into the United States. And this is only the middle of November, not even the middle of November. Again, this isn't the amount of snow that's going to be on the ground sticking. This is the amount of snow that's going to fall from the sky between now and the 12th of November. And this model will probably increase even more here in the next couple days when we see the models go all the way out to the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So interesting stuff coming up, guys. Lots of weather to keep our eyes on. And Mari, I didn't know if you wanted to say hello tonight to everyone in the chat. I know we kind of get her on. Again, welcome back. I'm glad to see you're able to start producing videos again. We're going to be able to update our subscribers a lot more nowadays, it seems.
Jake, I'm so happy you're excited about that. You rock. I couldn't do it without you, Jake. You know, it's been a while since I did video editing and put stuff together, and I was a little rusty, and I'm excited to be able to do it again. I got so many ideas for different videos, educational, getting started, all that. So, going back to the chat, we have such a beautiful community, and I'm always humbled by the people in the chat nightly. When it comes to Starman's guess to the temperature, he said that it was just a lucky guess. So he's being humble about that. He's being humble. And then, you know, he had a little quote in the chat, and it made me think, together we can make a difference. And it's funny that you're mentioning all these people in your, you know, in your broadcast here. You know, you're touting about Rob and Starman and Kate and Miss C Gypsy and all the people in there, and he's mirroring that. And a gentleman named Carlton is in the chat. He's working on a presentation to address Blackfoot Nation of southern Alberta. It's the second largest native, I guess it's native community in North America. And he just wants to show that community about the grand solar minimum so they can prepare and design their community with that in mind. I think that's awesome.
It's good stuff.
What an impact that is.
Yep.
You know, and people like that with passion for the topic and doing what they do, every single one of these people count. You're in the community here. We're all here learning from one another.
That's right.
And it's a beautiful thing. And I haven't checked yet. Rain Silver Splash is his YouTube name.
Yes.
I forget what I
Yes.
know his real name. It's not coming to me. I don't
David.
know if you. Okay, so we got lots of Davids. It's okay. So he has posted graphs to our Facebook. I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Cool.
And I have told people about the Patreon. I do have concerns about the YouTube platform censorship and weird things. So I think it's important that we do branch out on other platforms and just try to grow that exposure, because there's a lot of funky things on this platform.
It's scary.
And it is scary. And the fact that BP did get shut down, it's alarming, and I don't take things for granted.
And think about that for a minute. BP Earthwatch, 300,000+ subscribers. How much money do you think his channel probably earned YouTube? And I know it's just pennies in the bucket for them, but it doesn't matter at this point. You would think that money would keep that channel around, but apparently that doesn't mean. It's all about biased views, I guess.
Very biased views. I've been seeing even on our videos, we get a lot of Democratic video campaigns or advert campaigns. It's just weird. It's a weird scene on social media these days. A lot of it, I feel, is fabricated to try to skew people's belief systems. It's just a warped world out there, unfortunately. Yep. And Rain, thank you for the super chat donation. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. Very, very humbled by your support. And there's a lot of new faces in the chat. I just want to say hi. So, see you tomorrow, maybe? I don't know.
No, we're going to do...
We'll eventually get a normal schedule.
Well,
right,
Sunday at 6 p.m., as long as he's healthy enough, the famous Henrik will be joining us tomorrow.
Henrik, we've missed
I'm sorry,
you.
not tomorrow. Sunday at 6 p.m.
Sunday. Okay.
So he is excited to be back.
I'll get that scheduled.
Yeah, he is excited to be back. He's had family in town, so he's not been able to be a presence on YouTube as much, but he is going to try to make it. He's been sick, but he thinks he's getting better enough, and I know I've missed old Henrik being on the show.
Yeah, between the in-laws and his health. Like, come on, Henrik, we need you, bud. Let's get back.
So that'll be exciting stuff. Have him back on the show on Sunday at 6 p.m. But yeah, I think right now, tonight's Friday. Saturday, definitely not. Friday, but Sunday we do plan to have Henrik on. So again, guys, thanks for watching tonight. We appreciate the support. Please remember to like and share. Also, subscribe and hit that bell just so you can get the notifications. Usually, we have these programs scheduled enough time that you'll get an alert about a half hour before we go on live. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.